Hey guys, welcome back to the RevAMP program overview. Today we're going to go through stage 3, circuit number 1. The RevAMP program is designed for lower limb amputees of all ages and all abilities. If you want to find out more information, please get in touch with myself at jacques.com, or you can get in touch with Limb Power and we will give you the details on how to join the next RevAMP program. So like I said, we're going to go through circuit number 1 of stage 3. So for those of you that have been following this program, most of these exercises should be familiar. We are doing a floor-based circuit, and we have 8 exercises that we're going to be going through. We're going to focus on the core, we're going to focus on the hips, and a little bit through the shoulders as well. Okay, so let's start. Our first exercise is a Superman or Superwoman, whichever we want to call it. And it's very, very good for the posterior chain. So the back of the shoulders, your hips, a little bit through the core there as well. But it's more about kind of getting that balance and understanding how your body is working. And there's a couple of different ways that you can kind of go through this. And that we can make it more advanced as well. But if this is the first time doing this exercise, I suggest we just take it really slow and just get used to how your body responds to the unbalanced of being on the floor in this position. Okay. So this is a Superman or Superwoman. Get on all fours. You want your knees just underneath your hips, and you want your hands underneath your shoulders. What we're going to do, you just upper body. You're going to reach in front of you and back down, and alternate to the other side. Okay, and what I don't want to see is your body twisting. You want to keep as stiff and as rigid through your midsection as possible. Now, the next thing I want you to try is going leg at the same time. Now, you want to try and keep that foot onto the floor, and you want to think about that back being as flat and as rigid as possible. So you can see why it's called Superman now. So that arm goes out, leg goes out straight in front of you, back down, and we alternate sides. Okay, and what we eventually want to kind of get to is where you can hold for a split second, arm and leg off. You don't want to see that back collapse too much. Back onto the floor. And the other side for me is a little bit more challenging. And back down. Okay, guys, so that is your first exercise. You're then going straight into another exercise, which is a push-up. We should all be quite familiar with this. Let's start with our knee push-ups, box push-ups. Straight down into it. Remember that breathing. If you want a bit more of a challenge, we go up onto our toes and press in and back out. Okay, so those are your first 2 exercises on the program. You're then going to take a short rest and move on to the next 2 sets of exercises. We have a glute bridge. For those of you that have been following this program, we should all be quite familiar with this. You're going to keep those hips tilted in and core engaged. You're then going to press through your heels, push your bum off the ground, squeezing those glutes and back down. And you're going to repeat this. Refer to the program for how many repetitions, how many sets, and how much rest you should be taking in between all these exercises. Once you've completed the prescribed rest, you then go into something called a dead bug. Okay, so again, there are a couple of different versions of this. We're going to start by keeping our legs on the ground, hands up in the air, and you don't want to see that back arch up at all. You want to keep it down, pressed in, just like the glute bridge. Keep that hips pulled forwards. Hands up, and then go both arms behind us and back up to the top. Behind us, back up to the top. If that is too easy, we're going to go for one leg at the same time. So this is why it's called a dead bug. Imagine a beetle dead on his back. You're going to go legs down and arms, keeping that core engaged, not letting that back arch off the ground at all. And if you want a real challenge, for me, with this particular prosthetic leg, I can lock it straight, which really helps with this particular exercise. Both legs, both arms up into the air, keep that core engaged, slowly lower it down and bring them back up. Slowly lowering down and back up. Okay? So that, guys, is dead bugs. That is your next 2 sets of exercises. We then have a straight arm Superman plank. sorry, straight arms, scissor. We go straight arms. You're going to step one foot out to the side, back in, other foot out to the side. Ooh. If you find your slip, make sure you're on your mat. So step out, back in, step out, and back in. Okay, again, keeping that core nice and engaged so you're not flopping down into it or your back's not sagging. Keeping that core nice and engaged, back nice and stiff. If you want a bit more of a challenge, you can try a jump and a jump, jump and a jump. Okay, so you're going to really feel this working through the shoulders, but mainly the core there as well. Once you finish that one, you go straight into your single leg hip adductor. Lift that leg up and back down, up and back down. So for me, particularly with my hip, I haven't got huge range of motion, especially with the leg straight. You're going to find this harder than the clamshells that we've done previously because you've got a longer lever, slightly harder. What you don't want to see is you don't want your back to arch up with this. This is keeping everything fixed and rigid one side. Once you finish that, of course, you then go to the other side. I'd always suggest that your bottom leg has a very slight bend in it, like so. It just stops you from rolling back and forth. If you have both your legs straight, especially with a prosthetic hip like this one, you tend to kind of roll around. You don't feel as stiff and as supported. So bottom leg bent, keeping that back nice and straight, keeping that hip really tense up and down. Again, refer to the program for how many reps, sets, and how much rest you should be taking. But I will tell you this one though, guys. You do one exercise into the other, you have a short rest, and then you repeat, and then you move on to the next two exercises. Okay, you do one exercise and then the other, short rest, and then repeat, and on to this one. Okay, so our last two exercises that you're going to be doing, this is called a superset. You superset them together. It's one exercise straight into another. Our very last superset, two exercises, is a side plank. And I know a lot of us have perhaps struggled with this one a little bit on the previous program. So some of the feedback that I had. So what I want to talk to you about is specifically how we can adapt this one. So I may have suggested to you last time about keeping that arm straight and holding this position here, which is pretty challenging. You feel a lot through the shoulder, you feel a lot through that hip and the core, and maybe a little bit on the adductor as well there as well. So this is one option. This is probably the hardest one. We then have a slightly easier option of on our elbows. To make it easier again, if you put those legs apart, so you've got a wider base. So it means when they're stacked on top of each other, your feet are stacked, it feels like you're falling. You put one foot in front of the other, and it will just give you that little bit of extra support. Think about keeping it nice and tight through here. If that is still too much of a challenge, guys, what we can do is I suggest you get some sort of stool, or you could use a small box, or you could even stack up a couple of books. And I suggest you lie on your side. Now bring the box down in line with your knee and hold this position here. Okay, so you want to see, if I put my vest in there, my side is nice and straight, not letting it sag down at all. What you want to do is keep this tight. The lower the box or the buffet or whatever the stool is down your body, the harder it's going to be. If this gets too much, that's when you can bring it right the way up onto the hip and hold this nice and tight. Okay, guys, so once the superset of this exercise, you should do one side for the prescribed, look at your program for numbers, prescribed time, onto the next side. So we then go onto our right hand side. So for a lot of you were saying that you find your prosthetic side the hardest. Okay, I want to challenge you with this. Okay, so because it's hard doesn't mean it's impossible. Because it's hard, it probably means that's the thing you need to be working on the most. Okay, so perhaps let's start, because you've been doing this a number of times. Check out your program. Start on your elbow. Really get those hips up, feet on top of each other. Use the other foot, use the top leg to pull your hips up and hold this nice and tight. You're going to hold for a set number of seconds, and then you relax, take a bit of rest, and then we'll do the other side. Okay, on your next set, then look at using the stool. But for your first one, Really try and challenge yourself. Press your residual limb, your little leg, press it out. Hold it tight, okay? That is really going to help. Guys, those are the 8 exercises of circuit number 1. Like I said, I have listened to your feedback, and I appreciate that a lot of you enjoy the floor-based, what we call accessory exercises. So this is Monday morning, you're going to be doing your accessories. It's more of conditioning as well. I hope you enjoy. If you're watching this and you're not involved in the RevAMP program and you want to find out more information, like I said before, get in touch with myself or Limpa. Guys, look out for circuit number 2.